Thank you. I appreciate you guys giving me a chance to come up and visit with you and talk with you. We haven't really recruited this area very hard, being it's such Big Ten country. I played at Iowa and spent 10 years at Iowa, and I certainly recognize the quality of players that y'all put out up here in Chicago. Without question, it's a great recruiting area. Hasn't been something that we felt being in the Big 8 that we get enough recognition that we could come in here and fight the 11 Big Ten schools that are all up here, and I know just about every one of them is here. But it is great to have a chance to meet you. I'm going to visit and talk about pattern recognition and pattern reads out of our zone coverages, basically half-field coverage and how we pattern read things, and then get into, if we have time, a little bit of cover 3 and the purpose of cover 3, okay, how we see it, okay, and the benefit of cover 3 along with the half-field pattern reads. As I'm going along, if anybody, if I'm down right, and please, if you got your hand up or just yell Bob, you know, yell at me, I'll stop and certainly answer questions on any questions that you do have. To start off with, what we feel our half-field coverage, our philosophy in it, okay, are 4 major points or 4 things that we really feel we get out of it. Number 1, it's going to disrupt the timing and placing of receivers and the quarterback. Every offense or every team in the country, all summer long, all spring long, anybody that has an indoor practice field, all winter long, all those quarterbacks and receivers do is they drop back 3 steps, drop back 5 steps, and they throw all those timed routes. The stop route, the slant route, everything is perfect, okay? And their timing, and anymore, the timing of receivers and quarterbacks is so good, okay, that we feel we have got to throw them out of sync. Okay, we got to make that quarterback pat that ball an extra time. Okay, got to make that receiver push him in farther than that quarterback's used to seeing him pushed in. Okay, shorten his route shorter than the quarterback's used to having him there. So we are going to disrupt the timing and the placing of the receivers and the quarterback. Okay, number 2, or B, we're going to give the rush more time to reach the quarterback. As I said before, if we make that quarterback, his receiver isn't where he's used to him being all summer long, he's at that spot, he looks to throw it, he's not at that spot. He's got to pat the ball another time or 2. Gives your rush another split second to get off a block and get to the quarterback. See, it takes away the speed of the wide receivers. We get up against, if you got a 4-6 corner, and you're playing against 4-3 wide receivers, okay, if you're asking him to play deep with that receiver all day, you're going to ask for some trouble. If you got some corners that may have average speed, average ability, okay, which is my next point, protects the cornerback's ability. It gives you a chance to roll them up, let them use maybe they're physical and not quick, gives them a chance to get up and beat on that speed receiver before he has a chance to get off the line of scrimmage. Okay, so those are 2 points that you have a way to hide a corner or hide a kid that may not be a great cover guy, okay, but he's a great run support player, and you can find ways, okay, to get him on the field and protect him and protect his ability. I'm going to start. I'm going to start with the one back. We call it a spread set. Okay, first, just because it's defined and it shows a little, the next one I put up will be a pro split backfield. Okay, but from our base, and I'm not going to put the front in here to cloud this up, but from our base alignment, corners are outside eyes. They're going to be head up. I'll have them anywhere from nose up on the wide receivers. Okay, they're on the outside eye, real tight shade though. I don't want them shaded very much at all. Okay, and they're anywhere from on the nose on that line of scrimmage to 5 yards deep. Okay, if we call bump certain situations, we'll put bump with the coverage, and that they're going to play them nose up. Okay, other times they'll sink off. Other times you'll see, in the videotape we'll watch, you'll see the corner start to bail out and set it down late around 10 yards. I call that a Cathy technique. It's a soft corner jam is all. We just give it a name. And one thing I guess that to talk and just that I gave that technique a name, a Cathy technique, rather than telling them just play it kind of soft. If you tell them just play a Cathy technique, if you give words, and that's something I've picked up from listening to guys like Tony Dungy, visit with Nick Saban with the Browns a long time, was just with Herm Edwards with the Chiefs, and just like your guys are doing, I really admire it. Anytime you get a chance to pick somebody's brain a little bit, listen to somebody, what I have found more than anything, the terminology you put with techniques, or the terminology you put with your defense, okay, helps you communicate and get things across so much easier, okay, with your players. And then when you go back to that same technique, you know, it's really, you're not wasting time describing what you're talking about. So, but anyway, it's, you know, we're talking about a Cathy Technique there. From us, we're a 4-3 defense, and I'll put it up the first time with our front. Okay, we're a 4-3, and all we're gonna do is we're gonna stretch. If we're gonna play too deep, we're gonna stretch our backers, okay, in their gaps. So, and not to get too tied into that, but basically this backer, he's got to widen out to take the hot off of the number 2 receiver. Okay, and he's going to line up halfway between that wide receiver and the tackle. Okay, basically his B gap that he's responsible for right here. So he's going to line up halfway between. Now, if that's not far enough, they can still raise up and throw that ball and hit that receiver, and he gets more than 3 yards, he's got to widen a little bit more. But he is stretching himself between that gap responsibility and that wide receiver. This backer is responsible for protecting over this number 2 receiver, which I'll number him in a minute. He's going to widen between the A gap and that tight end. Okay, this Mike backer is going to split the B gap and the A gap. Now, just so you understand, I just got done listening to Gary Barnett next door. I walked in and listened to him for a few minutes. Of course, they're sitting over there scheming us, right? Offense, defense, everybody's strategy, 6 in the box, run the ball, right? And you can see why right here, why a team that plays too deep is not always gap responsible. We're going to try and fold. Well, you can see here what happens is those linebackers are stretched now. You're not as tough against the run. Okay, so, but anyway, this is something we will do, a team that we feel we are better than up front. We can stop the run with 6 in the box. Or it's 3rd down and 10, 2nd down and 10, we're willing to give you 4 or 5. Okay, but 1st and 10, a team that we can't dominate up front and stop and shut down the run, you will seldom see us in this. Okay, but, okay, from here now, from our alignments, the safeties are 14 yards deep, 3-4 yards outside the hash. I tell them you always be in a position that if that receiver hits that boundary clean, that you can cover that boundary. And they're 14 yards because there's 2 receivers in their half, lined up in their half. If there was 1 receiver lined up in their half, they cut it down to 12 yards. Okay, so they're 12 to 14 depending on the number of receivers in their half. Okay, from here, we number receivers 1, 2, 1, 2 from outside in. In a balanced 1-back set, that back there is 3. And really, men, I'm going to talk about getting over 2, getting over 3, those kind of things, but don't get too hung up in the numbers. We teach our players patterns. Every team you're going to play in offense, they have set routes. And they're never, you know, unless they bust something, they aren't going to put 2 people in the same spot. So when someone's in front of you, there's usually someone in back of you. When someone's inside of you, there's usually somebody outside of you. So we want to recognize patterns as they develop. And how they do that, and I'm going to start from the inside, okay, is this linebacker is taught, as well as this one, to stay over the number 2 receiver. So to keep between the quarterback and the number 2 receiver, okay? And we want to reroute his route. So as he starts to release, we're going to widen, flat, okay, shuffle step outside, trying not to turn our shoulders, and we want to engage this receiver. We want to get our hands into him, and we want to take him out of his pattern, okay? He's responsible now, not only for this receiver, he needs to understand the entire route. So what else can be happening? Right here, same thing. Get your hands on that receiver, reroute him, jam him, hold him up. They are responsible for staying over the number 2 receiver. Okay? This backer is going to sink back, and he's going to stay over the number 3 receiver. Okay? And as long as these 2 receivers stay vertical or on their side of the field, he will remain over this check down back. And I'll show you some patterns here in a minute. These corners now are going to reroute number one as they release. They're going to get their hands into him, and they're either going to shove him farther inside than he wants to be, or if they hit that boundary, okay, we're going to hold that boundary up to try and protect the boundary. And I'm going to go over those techniques after dinner, but I just want to get over the basic reads here in this segment. So as I engage the number 2 receiver, what else is happening with my pattern? Expand your vision, as well as it's important to communicate. That corner needs to communicate to his backer. Okay? The common route with everybody is the stretch route. Boundary release with the verticals up the middle. Vertical, boundary release. Okay? Corner's going to widen outside. They're going to post up with that outside arm, trying to protect them from getting up that boundary. They're going to pivot inside to the quarterback and throw that elbow and hip and try and block that receiver from getting up that boundary. Okay, and it's important. We talk about it's a hook technique. So as we turn inside, we want to try and hook that receiver and keep him from getting up that boundary. Okay, this backer now, as he expands his vision, he wants to widen this seam. Don't allow yourself to be beat inside. Okay, you want to widen that seam as it goes vertical. You expand your vision. If you see that receiver on the boundary, it's stretch. If you got to turn into this guy, whatever you got to do, but you run with him and you protect that seam at all costs. Never come off a seam when it's a stretch play. Okay, what other release then can happen off of this vertical release? Okay, so right here, we got a vertical release. I'm jamming that receiver. I'm widening that seam. I'm getting an inside release. That corner should be running that receiver down inside, and he ought to be screaming, in. He alerts that linebacker that he is getting an inside release. Okay, that backer as well, whether it's noisy in the stadium, maybe that's a freshman corner that doesn't use his mouth yet. Okay, that linebacker engages, and as he engages and starts to ride that seam, he gets his vision out to feel the route. He feels the inside release because now all of a sudden it's getting crowded in here in this space. That receiver's releasing inside. All right, he can feel it. That receiver is not releasing inside to stretch it. Okay, so it's no longer the stretch play. So now what he's going to do is he's going to sink and he's going to choke it down at 15 yards and wait for the squaring. And I'll show you footage of tape where we do it. He'll be riding that seam, he'll see it in, and whether he rode it a little too far, he'll flip back and he'll play that squaring. Okay, so you know everybody runs the same old routes to clear and square in behind it. Okay, so that's the only thing that'll ever take me off of a seam as a linebacker, off of the number 2 receiver. And what happened there when he squared in, he became 1, he became 2, correct? So this backer's rule is to stay with 2. Always protect between the number 2 receiver and the quarterback. Okay? The other thing that can happen was I jam and ride this seam. I can be getting a smash call. If a rolled corner ever gets a receiver that sets up on him, 5 yards or under, that corner's going to sit on that stop route. Okay, he'll sit off a yard or two, but he's screaming it. He's calling it smash, smash, smash to alert this backer, as well as the backer feels it. As he rides that seam, he sees, the receiver stops out there, and he'll start right now, as he rides that seam, he'll start bypassing and he'll start cutting the outside hip off. So when they flag, he's going to try and get under there, and my safety back here is schooled. And what we'll do, guys, is we'll work a 2-on, I'll work my receivers and backer, we'll just work this half of it, and we just work different patterns. And those guys get so used to, this half field player sees that stop route on that rolled corner, and you'll see that safety jump that flag, even if the backer blew it and didn't get under it. Sometimes they get so concerned about the vertical, they'll turn inside and lose the seam. Okay, and it isn't always perfect. But when they feel it and they get the call, you'll see them slide under and start to cut the flag off. Okay, and as well as this safety's ready to jump that flag. Okay? As this guy pushes inside, we'll stay on it. And I know people do it the other way. When we're playing true quarter field, when we open that half up and we pull out the quarters, we play it the other way. But I don't feel you should play it the same way all the time. In this way, we have had great success in our half field coverage against this route. great success. And it's just from working it, I believe. It's funny, in the last 5 years, we've been at Kansas State now 5 years, we have been in the top 3 in pass defense every year that we've been there. 1 year we led the nation in pass defense. 2 years we were 2nd in the league in pass defense. And 2 years we were 3rd in the league in pass defense. 2 years ago we had 21 interceptions, which put us like 4th in the nation in interceptions. So we feel the things we do with our pattern reads have proven out, okay, to be successful. Okay, so again, what's happening here is that's a seam route. I'm going to protect that seam, okay, at all costs. If I'm getting a smash call, I'm going to start undercutting that outside, that underneath hip, okay, to protect the flag. Okay, so what are his rules so far? Vertical, protect that seam, right? Protect the seam at all costs. What will ever take you off of a seam route? It's a clear and square, right? The inside release on that corner, okay, for the 15-yard squaring. Anything else, you get on that seam, you ride that seam, and you protect it. Okay? Other releases you can get.
What is the linebacker's initial key? What's he watching?
They key ball first, or they're keying the one back first.
So, do they not have problems getting back to those seam routes? Let's say if they get some sort of fake.
Well, good question. This guy is really tough, right? He's checking that back out, but before he supports and plays like a true backer and supports that B gap, he's holding, he's waiting, and he's checking that seam first to see that ball pulled. Again, it's not as good for the run, is it? That's the purpose of cover 3, which I'll get into in a minute. So I'm not going to even try and say, and I've heard coaches say, oh, you're fine against